Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first Dem Socialist. Good morning, sir. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Live Me. Fabulous. How are you? I'm a core. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, everybody. For everybody that was paying attention to last night, sorry I did not stream my comments for the net neutrality thing. I got a little nervous. Big Sean, good morning. How are you? Top Command, how are you? What's up, Dem Socialist? I had a good night. I went to the net neutrality thing. We'll talk about it some once the show officially begins here. But yeah, I went to the net neutrality thing. I saw that video. You did great. Thank you so much. Favorite pizza topping? Pepperoni. I know it's a very, what's up, Forever Voting Club Third Party? Marcus, how are you? Joe, you're not getting notifications on the Live Me. That is not cool. I am sorry to hear that, because I know YouTube has issues with notifications too. Let's see here. You guys are already sending me stuff, which is pretty freaking cool. Let's see here. I think, Marcus, you were first. And Whirlwind Wisdom, you also had something. Although this wasn't a Get Your News On with Ron thing. Okay, so Marcus, you were first. Weirdly enough, I did get the YouTube notification. Good to hear that, Joe. Glad to hear that. Let me go ahead and pull up our Reddit. See what Reddit's doing. We're almost getting ready to begin, guys. The way this show works, once we get 30 people over on Live Me, we do start the show officially. Abel, what's up, man? It's been a while. I have not seen you in a minute. I've seen you over on the Twitter, but I've not seen you on this stream. Welcome back. Good to see you. Almost there. As big up. Here we are. We have reached 30. Let me arrange my thing here. I actually accidentally knocked over my trash can. All right, guys. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. What's up, Kate? Perfect timing. Get your news on with Ron. I wanna know what's going on. We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. I wanna know what's going on. We're getting our news on today. Tweet me an article at Placone. We'll go through it together. We'll make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. I wanna know what's going on. Get our news on today. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. I am Ron Placone, your host. Happy Tuesday. Kate says, got to see your speech at the city council. Great job. How did it feel? Felt cool. I did not live stream it, you guys. I was a little nervous, just in general, and I just didn't want anything else to just be on my mind, so I did not live stream it. But people there filmed it, and shout out to DC LA 420, who took the feed, I guess, from public access and put it on YouTube. He ripped it off of the public access feed and put it on YouTube. I was literally walking back to my car, or my girlfriend's car, actually. She drove, but I was walking back with my girlfriend, and I was like, man, I wish I had better footage of it. And I went on to Twitter, because some people tweeted about it. So I just went on Twitter to see what that was about. And I saw that it had already been uploaded to YouTube. And I was like, freaking yeah, that's great. Somebody already uploaded it to YouTube. So that made me really, really happy. Some people in the area came out. Some people came to the city hall meeting. And then later came to the Old Town Pub where I played some tunes. I played a little bit of Clash. I played some Neil Young. I played some Springsteen, and it was just a fun celebratory after event. You know, comedy's my craft, music's my hobby. So, you know, I just kind of played some cover tunes. We had a good time. And yeah, so I'll give a summary of what happened, and we have a submission from 4 days ago about municipal internet over here on the Reddit. So we'll start there since we're on the topic of net neutrality, and I'll kind of tie this into what I did. So this was submitted by Placone, and the disclaimer here is Ajit Pai hates broadband internet. Joe wants to know how many people came out to talk to the council about municipal internet. We had about 10 people. Not everybody spoke, but a lot of people did. And yeah, we had about, I want to say like 10 to 12 people total. Did I get BBC's Pompeo's interview? I did not. What happens at city council next? So what will happen next based on the meeting I had in my community? I made my case. And then I got and then somebody on city council, there were 2 people on city council that kind of spoke out in favor of it. One guy was like, this is a good thing. We should have this. Another person also echoed the need for it. So I took down both their names, and the one gentleman suggested that it be added formally to a municipal agenda. So my next step is to follow up, find out when it'll go to committee, when it'll be on the municipal agenda, and show up there and basically make my case again and try to have even more people with me. And, my hope is that this works out and that hopefully other folks will see what happened here and they'll learn from the way we did it, or learn from whatever mistakes we make along the way, and do the same thing in their community. The fact that I was able to announce it on a big platform like the Jimmy Dore Show certainly helped, because it did help get a lot of people, a fair amount of people out. Like the city council really noticed. They noticed, well, a lot of people are here. We all sat in the same cluster together. We all had the same cause. So they had, at least 4 or 5 comments on everybody hammering for municipal internet. So that's a good thing to do. But, you can also just kind of do that in your community. Just attend meetings, just meet up with other people who have those similar interests and plan to go together at the same time. So here's what's going on. FCC Broadband Committee wants to restrict publicly owned networks. Ajit Pai is accused of tilting Broadband Committee towards industry representatives. So we've already talked about this. This is the FCC. They're trying to make it harder for cities and towns to build and operate their own internet services. The Broadband Deployment Advisory Committee was set up by the FCC last year. Is now releasing draft versions of its recommendation. And the mayor of San Jose, California, quit the group today out of frustration that the recommendations favor the interest of private industry over municipalities. Yes, Lucy really does disapprove of Ajit Pai. My cat really wants to go out into the world. So I guess I'll let her do it. Lucy's leaving the studio, everybody. Her contract is not to her satisfaction. So my cat, Lucy, my co-host, has left the building. Now she's whining elsewhere. But she ate most of her food, so she's not hungry. I know that much. The problem became particularly apparent at our most recent meeting in D.C. This is the San Jose mayor speaking. One working group, which did not have a single municipal representative among its 30 participants, created a draft model state code that included provisions to eliminate all municipal control over when, how, and whether to accept industry applications for infrastructure deployment. Another working group had an industry representative dramatically rewrite its draft municipal code in the 11th hour, pushing aside the product of months of the working group's deliberations. The result in each case were provisions that plainly prioritize industry interests. It has become abundantly clear that despite the good intentions of several participants, the industry-heavy makeup of the BDAC will simply relegate the body to being a vehicle for advancing the interests of the telecommunications industry over those of the public. So that's what we're dealing with here. basically, to sum that up, the FCC wants to make it a lot harder to do what I went and am trying to do last night. What I went to do last night, the FCC wants to make it very hard for people to do that. They don't want municipal internet to be an easy thing for folks to build. In fact, they're putting red tape so that it's not permitted. They're having these laws pre-written. They're having these contracts with municipals that, hey, we'll build infrastructure here, but you can't build any residential municipal internet for X number of years. They have that kind of stuff out there. However, when those agreements were made, when those contracts were written, you know what we did have? We did have net neutrality. We didn't have this blatant repeal of net neutrality. So any municipal, mine included and yours, can come back with the argument like, hey, you're now price gouging the internet. You're changing the service that you're offering. That makes our contract null and void. That's something that a city could come back with. Whether they will or not, I have no idea. But that is something. So yeah, to sum up what I did, I showed up at the hearing, and during the public comment sections, I said my piece, and I made my case, and then after that, they responded, which they did. 2 city council people seemed in favor of the idea of municipal broadband. So, just to sum up what I said earlier, because I know a lot of people just kind of signed on, our next step in my community in Pasadena is to go to see when it goes on a municipal agenda, see when they're going to bring it to committee, and show up for that. And hopefully show up with even more people and with even more testimonials as to why this is a necessary thing. So, we're going to be doing more with the footage, which, by the way, DC, I saw you just logged in. Thank you so much for putting that on YouTube. I appreciate it. DC ripped the footage from public access and threw it up on YouTube, so I got to see it. And yeah, we're probably going to use it later over on the Jimmy Dore Show. And we're just going to document this process the best we can. I may or may not succeed. Last night was a good start. I was happy with the start. I was glad that city council seemed receptive. And I spoke their language a little bit. I brought up how this is a good community investment, because it is. This is a win-win for everybody involved, except for, the cable companies. But this is a win-win for everybody else. This is a win-win for the city. This is a win-win for the community. This is a win-win for the citizens. It could have gone far worse for sure. Dem Socialist says, yes, it most certainly could have. Strange, la, 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 la. I love your brains, Ron. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. And thank you for the super chat contribution. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. And Kim says, congrats, Ron. It's big to take the first step. Yeah, I mean, and I certainly had a lot of help from the community. There were some people from JPL, which is a big, kind of like a big tech organization, to say the very least, here in the community. So having somebody speak from that perspective was very helpful. That carried some weight. There were also educators that spoke about it. There were also, just kind of concerned community members. There were even people that kind of lived a little bit outside that said, look, if Pasadena led the way here, I would move to Pasadena. I would proudly move to Pasadena. And there's some truth in that, I mean, I'll be honest, I've been following this story very intensely, and part of me did honestly think, man, Fort Collins, Colorado would be a really cool place to live. Even before this. So let's see here. So that's a sum up of what things have progressed here. We'll move on to another story. This is from Marcus. Are there any... Let's see. Are there any Dems you would vote for outside of Bernie before voting third party? Yeah, there's definitely some folks running as Democrats I would vote for. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people that are part of the Justice Democrat movement I would be happy to vote for. And let's see. And there's some people that I would probably make the compromise for, depending on the situation. It's really a case-by-case basis. The way I see it is, I would vote for Nina Turner. I would vote for Tulsi Gabbard. Other people in the chat are pointing them out. But for me, it's a case-by-case basis. It's all about policy for me. I'd vote for Roe. Yeah, I'd vote for Roe. There's some things that he's done that I don't agree with, but overall, I would certainly vote for Roe. I mean, there's things almost everyone's done that I don't, I don't think there's any politician out there where I've, been totally 100%, I'd probably, if I was in office, I'd do stuff I disagreed with, you know what I mean? But for me, it's just a matter of, I'm all about policy, not what's next to your name. If you are for the policies I'm for, I'll give you a vote. I don't care. I mean, I'd vote for Sam Ronan. He's running as a Republican. I'd vote for, there's a lot of folks I would vote for. Strange la la la. I'm also the one that pledged double on Patreon. Thank you so much. Strange la la la. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very, very much. And guys, patreon.com/Ron Placone, if you are so able, for just $1 a month, you get a boatload of exclusive content and fun stuff. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it. So yeah, I mean, there's, I'm a policy guy. I don't give a shit what's next to your name. I don't give a shit if you're an independent, if you're a Democrat. I don't even care if you're trying to enter the Republicans as a progressive. If you are for the policies I'm for, I'm listening. If you're not, well, then I'm not going to give you a vote. And, I have a few litmus tests that I won't deviate from at this point. And one of them is single payer. You don't support single payer, you're not getting my vote. I don't care. I do not care. Are there some extreme situations where I would probably cave on that? Yeah, there probably are. A good example is if I was living in Alabama. Would I have voted for Doug Jones to prevent a pedophile from going into office? Yeah, I would have. I would have sucked it up and I would have voted for Doug Jones, a corporatist. But that's a reflection of how broken our system is. When you have to vote against a pedophile, you literally have to vote against a pedophile. Wow, what a choice. What a choice. The people in Alabama voted for nothing. They voted against something. They voted against pedophilia. They didn't vote for anything. Because Doug Jones offers nothing. In fact, he's voted with Republicans through and through since he's been in office. So my point for bringing that up, are there a few extreme exceptions where I would probably compromise on that litmus test? Yeah, but again, they're very extreme exceptions. And I hope to never be in that situation where I have to make that kind of compromise. But yeah, you don't support single payer, you ain't getting my vote. Period. I won't even consider it. Let's see here. So let's move on. So this is from Forbes. Marcus shares this. We're going to be switching gears here. Don't forget Doug Jones is constantly voting Republican. Yep, sure is. Ha! Joe says Joe Kennedy is a superstar right here. Yeah, that guy. Speaking of which, it's funny you mentioned Joe Kennedy because this article is sort of in that vein. Joe Kennedy, of course, has this bizarre, archaic view of the drug war where he's still against pot, probably because he's in bed with Big Pharma. But here's a survey. Nearly half of people who use cannabinoid products stop taking traditional medicines. The largest survey on cannabidiol or CBD usage to date found that women were more likely than men to use CBD, and once they started using it, were likely to drop their traditional medicine. A new survey from Brightfield Group and HelloMD covered 2,400 of HelloMD's community of 150,000 members and did a deep dive into the usage of CBD products and their effectiveness. HelloMD is an online community that brings together doctors and cannabis patients. Cannabidiol, I'm not saying it right, is a non-psychoactive cannabis compound that doesn't give users the feeling that they are high or stoned. Instead, it is known to have medicinal qualities. Contrary to the image of men being the predominant consumers of cannabis, this survey found that 55% of CBD users were women, while men preferred the THC-dominant products. Brightfield Group, which helped conduct the survey, studies consumption patterns and demand trends and is committed to providing accurate data in the cannabis industry, which seems to be rife with unsupported claims. The most common reasons people use CBD were to treat insomnia, depression, anxiety, and joint pain. One of the areas that the CBD producers will have to work on is educating the consumer about CBD products. There are more than 850 brands of marijuana-derived CBD products on the market and 150 hemp-derived products. 8% admitted they didn't know what CBD products they used. Let's see here. Adding to the confusion is the murky legal status of CBD, which Abel points out. Green Road CBD oil, Pure Canna CBD are all legal, and you can buy it online. You got to get real CBD. DC points out a lot of online CBD snake oil merchants are out there. So, and getting back to the article, technically the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency labels all CBD products as illegal. However, hemp-derived CBD is available in just about every state and even online through Amazon. Marijuana-derived CBD tends to only be found in states with legal medicinal marijuana. This confusion is actually helping the producers of these products as consumers are turning to reliable and trusted brands, said Dr. Solomon. Cure by Design is one of the top marijuana-derived brands in the California market, followed closely by Bloom Farms. So interesting. So nearly half of people, they stopped taking traditional medicines. Now, does that just mean for the ailment that they're taking the CBD medicine for? Or does that mean like completely? That'd be an interesting. Portland points out that in Oregon, CBD can be purchased at convenience marts. It can be purchased at a convenience march. That's a I'm pretty sure that's a march that hasn't happened yet, but we got to make it happen. What are you guys marching for? Convenience. For what? Everything. We just want a more convenient. I think in many ways a march for healthcare is convenient, right? I mean that's a convenience march. We want it would be convenient. I mean, at the very least, right? Would make studying this easier if it wasn't a Schedule I substance. Yes, exactly. I mean, you know, that's why there's still a parallel to the drug war in this article, even though, you know, like the certain types of it are sold everywhere. There's still some overlap here. All right. Let's move on. Guys, if you have not sent an article yet, please refrain from doing so because we already got a ton of stuff. And it's already 10:24. We're almost halfway through already. Convenience or death, Dead Kennedys. Thanks for the Dead Kennedys reference, Kate. Always liked it. Cannabis products are covered by insurance, Portland points out. All right. Edwin, you sent this. The people versus the Democratic establishment. This is an opinion piece. The coming attack on progressive candidates. All right. Let's see what this is all about. Sorry, not covered. Portland says not covered. That was what he meant to say. Thank you, Portland. The people versus the Democratic establishment. The coming attack on progressive candidates. And an ad popped up. Gross. With the public increasingly rejecting the neoliberal consensus that has dominated the Democratic Party for decades. And keep in mind, when they say neoliberal, what's quote unquote liberal about being neoliberal? The answer, nothing. Neoliberalism has infected the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. When they say liberal and neoliberalism, they mean the liberalization of markets. They mean deregulation. They mean capitalism. They mean let the CEOs do what they will. That's what neoliberalism is really all about. And in the contemporary United States, the fact that the words liberal is in there throws off a lot of people. So I like to refer to them as corporate apologists or Starbucks conservatives. I don't even call them latte liberals, again, because there's nothing even liberal about them. They're not even the Phil Oakesong level of liberal at this point. They're conservative. Lucy wants back in. I have such a finicky co-host, you guys. She is unhinged. You want in? You coming in? You're delaying the show. All these people are sad. Lucy, I think she just come on in. You're either coming in. Come on, you gotta commit. Finish your breakfast. Finish your breakfast, Luce. Starbucks conservative is such a good phrase. I need to start using it. Thank you. DC points out a judge in New Jersey found that medical marijuana should be covered by workers' compensation. That's cool. I'm glad to hear that. All right, so back to this guy. Let's see. With the public increasingly rejected the neoliberal consensus, which we explained what that is, that has dominated the Democratic Party for decades. Kate asks, what is a Starbucks conservative? I identify a Starbucks conservative as the kind of establishment Democrat wing. Peter Dow is a Starbucks conservative. Hillary Clinton is a Starbucks conservative. Doug Jones is a Starbucks conservative. That's what I mean. Basically, neoliberals. They're Starbucks conservatives. Joanne Reed is a Starbucks conservative. Because they're someone who is someone who's posing as a progressive, basically. I call them Starbucks conservatives. Or corporate apologists. Take your pick. Nearest hand in, Joe points out. Dem light is another way to put it. Forever voting third party points out. Abel says posers. Latte liberals. I know people like latte liberals, and I like that too because I love alliteration, but I also I just wanted to I wanted to take the term liberal away from that group. I really do. All right. So getting back to this, with the public increasingly rejecting the neoliberal consensus that has dominated the Democratic Party for decades, establishment Dems have a mission to complete in the coming years. They need to convince voters that a neoliberal candidate who is funded by the donor class is in fact a populist social democrat like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. They must then fool the left into voting for a representative of the neoliberal wing of the party. Let's not let them fool us. This is where we stand at the start of 2018. The grassroots base is too strong to be totally ignored, but powerful forces hope it is weak enough to be successfully manipulated. Yeah, and let's underline that first part. We're too strong to be totally ignored. They know that now. They know that now. That's why when I tweet Randy Bryce and say, hey, stop ignoring progressive media, that's advice that he should probably take. That's not me throwing some purity test out there or whatever you want to call it. That's not me, being unreasonable. That's not me not giving the guy an open ear. I do have an open ear for the guy. I want to hear it from his mouth. I want him to clear up some things about his stances on pipelines, where he's actually at with single payer one way or the other. Cappuccino conservatives. Oh, Marcus, I think you nailed it. Cappuccino conservatives. Progressives are already expecting strong efforts to undercut potential presidential candidates who will not strictly adhere to the party's corporatist ways. By the way, just to be clear, because I did tweet Randy, I just want to make sure he does mention single payer on his website. But he also kind of uses some neoliberal talking points when he's on certain shows. So just looking for clarification. Let's see here. Progressives are already expecting strong efforts to undercut potential presidential candidates who will not strictly adhere to the party's corporatist ways. An NBC Wall Street Journal poll shows 85% of voters polled agree with this statement. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the reward of government while the people have borne the cost. A recent report, Autopsy, the Democratic Party in Crisis, funded by Action for a Progressive Future, shows these concerns may be justified. The party experienced a fall off of voter turnout and support among people of color, the young, and the working class. Yeah, the Democratic Party is losing people in droves. They are bleeding members. The report cites, for example, an 11% drop in black women voters in 2016, normally the Democrats' most reliable voting bloc. A poll in spring of 2017 found that 2/3 of the public sees the Democratic Party as out of touch with the concerns of most people. Establishment Democrats have numerous methods with which to keep the progressive grassroots and their candidates from succeeding. They will blur the distinction between neoliberal elites and candidates who reflect an actual shift away from neoliberalism. They will rely on corporate media allies and their many powerful surrogates to help shape the narrative. And they can rely on the existing electoral processes from the DNC, staffed mostly with establishment loyalists. This, of course, in addition to traditional dirty tricks and opposition research. All right, so what is, this is all stuff we know. So what's kind of the theme of this article? If the theme of this article is the DNC plays dirty and the Democratic Party really does not want progressives in it, that's stuff we already know. This is a good summary. All right, so let's get to the bottom of this. This is a really good summary, but I don't feel the need to rehash some of the themes that we kind of talk about every day. This is the kind of tactic we will see. Okay, progressives. All right, so here's the theme here. Progressives have been talking about transforming the Democratic Party since the early days of the 2016 primary. The 2020 presidential election will be an important test to gauge whether the establishment's iron grip on the party can be weakened in a serious way. We should be getting more involved in electoral politics since we have proof that Democratic Socialists can get elected. We will need all the allies we can in 2020, pushing the Democratic Party from the inside. And you need to keep in mind that the Democratic Party is working against you. The DCCC is working against you. The DNC is working against you. It's very weird. And this is a great article and a great summary. Edwin, thank you so much for sharing. It's a really well-written article, really good summary of what's really going on with neoliberalism, what's going on with the corporate Democrats, etc. Let me go ahead and give that a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. And then we're going to move on to the next jobby. I know a couple of you guys sent more than one thing, but I'm going to try to make sure I get to one thing from everybody that sent something. This is from Platypus. And DCLA, congrats, you won some experience points. This is from the Human Rights Watch. So over in Australia, an espionage bill threatens democratic values. This is an amend draft to protect whistleblowers, journalists, and activists. Okay. A proposed Australian espionage law will put whistleblowers, journalists, and human rights activists at risk of prosecution. Human Rights Watch says today in a submission to Australia's Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security. The committee's hearings are scheduled for January 30th, 2018 in Canberra. The National Security Legislation Amendment, this is a bill of 2017, broadly defines national security to include Australia's political, military, or economic relations with another country or other countries. Under the espionage offenses, the bill provides no public interest defense and no requirement of intention to cause harm, meaning that people could face lengthy prison terms for legitimate conduct that is in the public interest. So this is similar to what we had in the United States, where, especially with that surveillance bill that recently passed. I know this isn't an actual surveillance bill itself, but the parallel that's going on here is that the language is vague, the language is broad. So basically, if you make a case like, oh, this is for security, Trump can spy on whoever he wants. Similarly here, oh, this is for national security, so we can punish this whistleblower, we can punish this journalist, we can punish, this person. And the fact that it doesn't include any clause of the intention to cause harm is problematic. Keep in mind, there was a clause like that, at least at one point in the United States. That's why there was such an outrage when Barack Obama responded to Edward Snowden the way he did, because based on what Edward Snowden did, it should have been considered a political offense. It should not have been, and Barack Obama wanted to come down as a criminal offense, but it should have been viewed as a political offense. This person did something in the best interest of the United States, in their mind. Whether you agree or disagree is irrelevant. The person acted in a way that they thought was benefiting the country. They thought this was important. They put themselves on the line. It should be treated as a political offense. Sorry, I thought I had something on me. I got like an itch on my arm. I'm all over the place today. So the fact that there's no clause of intention to cause harm, that's particularly alarming for journalists and or whistleblowers, because that means if someone blows the whistle because they think they're doing justice and they think they're doing something important, due to this new legislation, Australia can say, we don't give a shit. You're going in jail. This is important to national security and political, military, and economic relations with another country or country. We don't care what your intention was. We don't care if you were exposing injustice. We're throwing you in jail. Basically, because of the verbiage that's in this bill, that's what they can do. If the espionage bill isn't fixed, this is back to the article, it will have a chilling effect on disclosing information in the public interest. Absolutely. This is the Australia director, Eileen Patterson, at the Human Rights Watch, talking about this. And they pretty much reiterate what we just said. National security is defined so broadly that practically any criticism of Australia's foreign policy could be deemed an espionage offense. The Australian government should narrow the definition of national security, include intent to cause harm as an element of all offenses, and include a general legitimate public interest offense. Yeah. Perfect summary. Yeah. And legislation like this, and I'm trying to be reasonable here, where I understand that, you need to have protected information. I get that. But when someone blows the whistle because they deem it as necessary, I mean, look at the stuff Chelsea Manning exposed. She exposed torture, among other things, and it was all injustice. When somebody acts in that way, yes, there needs to be a clause that says they were acting in legitimate public interest. They did not have the intent to harm. Those protections need to be in there. They should be in there. And national security shouldn't be this big, vague, broadly defined thing where you can basically throw anybody in jail. Thank you very much for sharing that. Strange la la la. Yay, that's the story I sent. Thank you, Ron. You are very welcome. Thank you for sending it. And let me go ahead and give it a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. That's an interesting story. What's going on over there in Australia? Australia also did something that we did in terms of the internet, and they have really shitty Wi-Fi because of it. At least that's what Caitlin Johnston told me. They did the thing we did, and they were like, hey, we're going to go ahead and privatize this. So Australia should maybe not take lessons out of our playbook. All right. Oh, and by the way, somebody just sent me a meme. Pharmaceutical companies have been giving Joe Kennedy $348,000 since 2011. He also has $434,000 of stock in a company charging $1,000 per pill for a life-saving drug. And because of this, he opposes legal pot and he opposes universal health care legislation. Democrats have referred to him as a rising star. All right. Moving on here. Sorry for the I'm going through the tweets. We have a lot to get through. This is from Seth. Only 2%, this is a poll from commondreams.org, only 2% have seen promised GOP tax benefits trickle down to them. So 2% of people have been fooled, basically. I think that's what that means. A new survey is the latest evidence that the Republican tax plan's giveaway to corporations is not trickling down to workers. On the heels of reports that large companies are announcing layoffs and new customer fees just weeks after receiving multi-billion-dollar tax breaks thanks to the Republican tax plan, a new poll finds that few Americans have seen any financial benefits. In a survey of more than 5,200 people taken by Reuters, just 2% of respondents said they've received a year-end bonus, pay raise, or other financial benefit from their company following the plan's passage in December. And I guarantee you know what it had to do with the passage of the tax plan? Nothing. Zero. I promise you that. A lot of people are trying to make these false equivalencies. Walmart was the biggest guilty party. What did Walmart do? They raised their wages to $11 an hour, and they said, oh, this is because of the tax plan that passed. We're not being strangled by taxes anymore. Meanwhile, what else did they do? They closed a bunch of Sam's Clubs. It had nothing to do with the tax bill. They're not, I mean, they could have raised wages a long time ago. They did it in conjunction with the tax bill to sell you that lie. Don't be fooled by Walmart. We did a video about it. I did a video about it on Get Your News On with Ron. We did a video about it over on the Jimmy Dore Show. Don't be fooled by that. So I would say that the 2% of people got fooled by some bullshit. It's an unrelated factor that they got a bonus or that they got a pay raise. It was something that was going to happen anyway. Walmart was praised by the Trump administration. Oh, here they go. They bring up that bullshit in this article. Walmart was praised by the Trump administration for announcing that it would raise its minimum wage from $10 to $11 an hour weeks after the law passed, but quietly moved to shutter more than 60 of its Sam's Club stores and lay off thousands of employees at the same time. Marcus points out it's a bonus, not a raise. That says it all. Exactly. It would be like a more long-term thing if it had anything to do with this bogus tax bill. It doesn't. In December, during the height of the political battle over what was dubbed by critics as the GOP tax scam, a majority of Americans polled by CBS News said they understood the plan was designed to help corporations and the wealthy. About one-third of those polled said the tax overhaul made them more likely to vote for Democratic candidates in 2018. Only a quarter of the only a quarter of respondents said they would vote for a Republican as a result of the plan. Yeah, I mean, this tax plan, I mean, this is just evidence of the government straight up working against you. Nobody liked this tax plan. Nobody favored it, but they got it through anyway. And I would argue that the 2% of people, they're wrong. It has nothing to do with this tax plan. What's up, Forever Voting Third Party? Welcome back. All right, so thank you for sharing that Common Dreams article, Seth. Very much appreciated. All right, let's move on. All right, this is from Uppity Bumpkin. Giving it a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. And this is from RT. I do the truth. CIA director somehow keeps straight face in softball BBC interview. CIO director Mike Pompeo welcomed an acquiescent BBC into his Langley headquarters for an interview that America's adversaries will hope beyond hope was a demonstration of extreme irony rather than official policy. Okay. I'm not familiar with this interview. Pompeo had an impressive background. He graduated first in his class from West Point and editing the law review during his time at Harvard Law School. But far more impressive is his ability not to laugh out loud at his own statements, according to the article. I don't do fine lines, I do the truth. I promise I didn't make that up. The CIA director actually said that. Historical coups and Saddam's non-existent WMDs apparently don't count in Pompeo's world. Americans should be worried about the statement on two fronts. Firstly, either their top spy master is a terrible liar, which is not great in a spy, or the top spy master doesn't lie, which is not great in a spy, okay? The usual suspects were in the firing line for the sit-down BBC interview: North Korea, China, Russia, and Iran. The top trumps of global villains in the eyes of America. Nice play on words there by the author of this piece. We can only assume a dozen CIA snipers had their sights trained on the reporter posing the questions. Short of stroking the CIA director's brow, it couldn't have been a more comfortable experience. Pompeo launched his PR offensive by claiming the CIA is the world's finest espionage service. We're going to go out there and do our damnedest to steal secrets. It's good that he admits this is the game the CIA is involved in, and it makes you wonder why the American government throws such a tantrum when it realizes every other country is doing the same. The people who should be most worried is probably the Chinese, not the Chinese government, but normal Chinese people. Pompeo said the Chinese are very active. We can watch very focused efforts to steal American information, to infiltrate the United States with spies, people who are going to work on behalf of the Chinese government against America. We see it in our schools. We see it in our hospitals and medical systems. We see it throughout corporate America. It's also true in other parts of the world, including Europe and the UK. He said this. All right, so this is an article. This is a commentary piece on a BBC interview that I've not seen. So, you know, we got to take that into account here. I haven't seen this interview itself. I'm going to read this quote again, though. The Chinese are very active. We can watch very focused efforts to steal American information, to infiltrate the United States with spies, people who are going to work on behalf of the Chinese government against America. We see it in our schools. We see it in our hospitals and medical systems. This is xenophobic bullshit. We see it throughout corporate America. It's also true in other parts of the world, including Europe and the UK. So you're supposed to be... Are you supposed to be skeptical of any Chinese person you meet? This is something the CIA director is saying in public. And as the author points out, some of those people are just school kids, nurses, and business people who happen to look Chinese, perhaps try and get a handle on that paranoia. Yeah, paranoia is... it's xenophobic paranoia is what it is. And it's discriminatory. He called China a bigger threat than Russia. Moscow, I'm sure, will be glad of the day off. That's a funny line. That's in the article. It's a funny line. The BBC reporter then asked whether the CIA has concerns that Russia is planning to intervene in the midterm elections. I get tired just fucking saying it. I mean, I get tired just uttering the sentence, even in an opinion piece that's gonna... I am so... my God. How are other people not just over... like I mean, this Russiagate thing, like it's just so... like, it's nonstop. It's like... the goalpost keeps moving. First it was collusion, then it was interference, then it... I mean... eventually it's gonna be like Pompeo's views on Iran were a performance in high satire. At least I hope they were. Try these comments for size. The non-nuclear Iranian threat is a very serious challenge to stability in the Middle East, and they are not a force for good. The Iranian people understand that these adventures, which cost the Iranian people tens of millions of dollars and present risks to their lives to fight in Yemen, make no sense. Now, what we can take away from this is, like, keep in mind, this is how these people think. This is how insiders like this guy think. They think in terms of defense, and it's the U.S. versus the rest of the world. They're paranoid. Marcus points out it's going to get to the point. Is going to get to the point he used Russian dressing on his salad. I'm not even kidding, Marcus. I was on a show before where somebody actually made that point. Somebody actually pointed out people that use Russian dressing on their salad. How Ron, NFL or flag? I don't understand that comment. Go ahead and try again. NFL or a flag? I don't know what you mean. So, unbelievable. The non-nuclear American... oh, are you saying how, like, as in how are they going to think? How do people like Mike Pompeo think? Oh, how the people are distracted. NFL or a flag? Yeah, I think that's a good. That's kind of a good way to put it. Or as Bill Hicks said it, American Gladiators. But that was back then when that was a more prominent show. So anyway, this is how people like Mike Pompeo think. They think in terms of American exceptionalism. They think in terms of it's us versus the rest of the world. So keep that in mind as you dissect what's going on in the world at large. The intelligence community, the CIA, they don't dislike Trump because of some moral high ground. Trump is morally despicable. Nobody's... I mean, that's not... nobody disagrees on that, on the left at least. Where we disagree is that the CIA has some moral... like they're worried he's not going to continue the war machine as usual, not because he has some moral stance against it, but because he's just too much of a knee-jerk reactionary. They don't know what they're going to get. And, I mean, listen to this guy. I mean, this guy has... I mean, this is a paranoid rant against all Chinese people. And against every nation that's not the U.S., basically. And this guy... wow. And these are the people that some people on the quote-unquote left consider allies now. And it's like, gee, I always thought the left was anti-war. I always thought it was up to us to be the anti-war wing. All right, guys, we are almost out of time. Thank you for sharing that article, Forever Voting Third Party. I appreciate it. That's a good one. We got one more. Well, I'm going to try to do two really quick. And guys, thank you so much for your participation. I'm sorry that I've had some more scroll time than usual today. It's our first, Forever Voting Third Party points out ending war. Yeah, that used to be something that the left was a united front on, and not so much anymore, it seems like. All right. This is from Long Beach. Thank you, Long Beach. And then we got one from DC, and then we are going to have to dismount here. Thank you guys so much for all your participation today. Let's see here. This is from therealnews.com. Several congressional candidates are facing expensive lawsuits from the Democratic establishment who are challenging their ballot petitions. Democratic establishment's trying to keep progressives off congressional ballots. DC points out there is no anti-war movement. I would say there is. It's just certainly not in the Democratic establishment. That's for damn sure. Several grassroots and progressive congressional candidates are facing expensive lawsuits from the Democratic establishment, which is challenging their ballot petitions in hopes of clearing the primary field. Anthony Clark was one of the first congressional candidates to receive the backing of brand new Congress. And he's running as a Democrat against Danny K. Davis, who has held the seat since 1997. On January 22nd, a judge overruled several objections filed by incumbent Rep. Davis's surrogates, former state senator Ricky Hendon and his staffer Charita Logan, that alleged Clark's signatures to get on the ballot were fraudulently obtained. This week, the Board of Elections will decide on whether to accept the judge's recommendations. The Davis campaign's efforts to remove Clark from the ballot failed, but they did force Clark to spend vital campaign resources on legal fees. They spent $12 grand on legal fees. Challenging ballot signatures has been a frequent tactic used by establishment Democrats and the DCCC. In the 2016 election, the DCCC handpicked Mike Parrish, a former Republican and CEO of an oil company, to challenge Republican incumbent Congressman Ryan Costello. Leaked documents first obtained by The Hill revealed that DCCC was coordinating with Parrish's campaign before he formally announced his candidacy. In Arizona's 8th congressional district, Gene Schauer and Brianna Westbrook are currently facing legal challenges to try to remove their names from the ballot. So, and we did a piece on this on the Jimmy Dore show too. This is another example. The DCCC actively works against progressives. They have, the first question they ask you is how much money can you raise? They make you follow this set of rules where you have to spend so much money on their consultants. It's basically a big gatekeeping money scheme. That's pretty much what they are at this point. But they are gatekeepers. And if we had a viable third party, they would become obsolete gatekeepers. But until that point, unfortunately, they're not obsolete gatekeepers. They are gatekeepers where you either do their dance or you're really climbing up a long hill, and they're going to do everything they can to push you back down that hill. And this is part of the reason why I really think that gatekeepers getting payola, Forever Voting Third Party says, yeah, that's a great summary. Absolutely. Marine points out it's pretty sad. Yeah. And this is why I lean towards we need a viable third party. And when I see stuff like this, when you see the DCCC hijacking progressive candidates, literally hijacking them, forcing them to spend money they don't have, it's really when you just think the Democratic Party is broken beyond repair. And it's just one of those things. Gee, we're trying so hard to break into this building where there's padlocks everywhere and they're doing everything they can to keep us out. Meanwhile, at this point, we could just build our own building. But, that's not easy. But I think hijacking this, I think a progressive takeover of the Democratic Party is not easy either. And it's really tough to decide which one is less likely. You know what I mean? Like which one is the harder path. All right, so we got time for one more quick one. This one is from DC. Health insurer Aetna's quarterly profits soar 75.5% on lower cost. Aetna reported a higher than expected quarterly profit. The results were partly due to higher premium yields in its commercial and government businesses. Aetna agreed to be bought by CVS Health for roughly $69 billion in cash. Aetna, which has agreed to be bought by CVS Health, reported a higher than expected quarterly profit on Tuesday due to higher premium yields. U.S. drugstore operator CVS agreed to buy it for $69 billion. CVS Aetna deal will combine one of the nation's largest pharmacy benefits managers and pharmacy operators with one of the oldest health insurers. Aetna, which expects the deal to sit with CVS to close in the second half of 2018, said the U.S. tax reform will increase gross 2018 adjusted earnings by about $800 million. So who is this tax benefit helping? For-profit health insurance industry. So them, along with CVS, can now combine to price gouge people when it comes to their lives and health. Thank you for sharing this. So so who's winning? Like the villains are winning, basically. Like who's winning from this? For-profit healthcare. One of the biggest health insurers, Aetna, a third party, yeah. So that's who's winning here. It's not a small portion of the working class. It's nobody in the working class. It's corrupt industries that need to go away, like our healthcare system. Thank you for the star points, Joe. Dem Socialist points out, here, hold on, let me get to that. Our healthcare is such an embarrassment on a global scale. It's beyond an embarrassment. Yeah, I mean, it's so, like nobody, most other countries, like, they don't even understand. Like, they don't, or not that they don't understand, but it's like they can't even fathom a system like ours. Like, have you ever had a conversation with, like, somebody from a different country about what our system's like, and they're just like, and it just blows their freaking minds. They're like, wait, they make you have to buy it from a private, like, I was talking to a friend of mine who's Canadian once, and this was a long time ago, and he was like trying to understand. He's like, so you have to buy it like car insurance, basically. And I was like, yeah. And this was like pre the Affordable Care Act. Not that it makes a huge difference, but he was blown away that some people like it's not everybody has it or is required to have it or whatever. And he was talking about how, like, he was just asking me these questions that were like kind of funny, but also very like yeah, it's a reflection of how messed up our system is. And he's like, so like, is there a thing like he asked, he's like, if somebody tries to commit suicide, will like nobody help them? Will they just be denied care anywhere? Because like he pointed out how like with car insurance, if you like intentionally sabotage your car and they know it, they won't give you any money because that's fraud. He's like, well, so if you try to kill yourself, would that be treated the same way since they want to make a profit? And which is kind of like, in some ways, that sounds like kind of a crazy sentiment, but it's a reflection of how fucked up our system is and how bizarre our system is. That to somebody that's not familiar with that, they're kind of like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, them socialists saying, don't give them ideas. Don't give the insurance industry ideas, or they might write that in. If you try to, yeah. So again, it's a very dark observation, but it's kind of like, it's a reflection on how bogus. I mean, just take a step back and think about how crazy it is to make a profit center out of people's lives. But that's what we do here when it comes to healthcare. That's why the World Health Organization ranks us like 37th. Technology, we could have the best. We have the resources and technology to probably be the best, but because of our system, we have low life expectancy. We have bad health. We have, this broken beyond repair system. And that's who's benefiting from this tax plan. Places like Aetna, which is now combining with CVS. Two for-profit entities. Joe points out they look at us like we're from the dark ages. Other countries when we explain our healthcare system. So again, I'll bring it full circle because we are totally out of time. My big litmus test, you don't support single-payer healthcare, nonprofit, single-payer healthcare, Medicare for all, you don't get my vote. You ain't getting it, I ain't voting for you, period. Unless there is a very, very extreme exception. Very, 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 very extreme exception. And I doubt I'll be facing that situation anytime soon. You don't support single payer, you don't get my vote. Them socialists, single payer, and free college, that's my litmus test. I'm with you. Free college is a big one too. But, you know, I just start one thing at a time. You know, I just have one thing first, and that's single payer. And then you support single payer, let's see what else you're about. But single payer, that's barrier to entry. Marcus points out, don't forget Amazon, Berkshire, and Morgan are teaming up on healthcare, and it's scary. Joe points out, no corporate cash. Litmus test, that's a good one too. All right, guys, we are totally out of time. I'll send you off with a theme song. Thank you guys so much for participating. Live me, thank you. YouTube, thank you. Strange, la 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 la, thank you. Guys, I guess I got to give the quick plug. Patreon.com/Ron Placone for a pay-what-you-can model, meaning you can pay whatever you're comfortable with. You get a boatload of free content. I do a podcast every week. I do a midweek piece of content, which is either a full stand-up set not available to the public, or a piece of writing that I wrote, or an exclusive video of some sort, or an original song, just something fun. And I do that every week. Also, if you're a patron, if I'm coming to your town and I got some more tour date announcements coming up soon, you get to go to the show for free. Anytime I'm performing in your town, if you're a patron, you don't have to worry about paying for a ticket. Also, Kate pointed this out. Thank you for saying this, Kate. I am really close to my first goal, you guys. I'm so freaking close to my first goal. And when I hit that first goal, I'm getting t-shirts made. The first 50 patron signups that I had, they get a free t-shirt in the mail. And for everybody else on the Patreon, if you join the Patreon, t-shirts are available at a highly discounted rate. And I'm very close to that first Patreon goal of getting my t-shirts made. So guys, if you're able, patreon.com/Ron Placone, help support this show. Help me get a monitor behind me so you guys can see what I'm reading for this show. Some people have requested that. Some people have requested thumbnails. I want to get on all of that. But here's the deal. I have to, I got to build more resources for this show because, you know, I got to be able to pay my help better. And I got to be able to invest in more equipment, et cetera, et cetera. So if you are able, patreon.com/Ron Placone. You can give as low as $1 a month. It's less than a cup of coffee. DC 420, single payer now. I'm with you. I'm with you. Getting rid of headphones on others' shows. I don't know if I can do that. I need that for Echo's sake. Did you know you're on Wikipedia? Yes, I did know that. I am on Wikipedia. Yes. My page is still in development, but yeah, I know I'm on Wikipedia. I got to get Twitter verified. That's what I need to do. Thank you guys so much. We are completely out of time. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means you guys tweet me articles, and that's how we build the show. I've not seen any of these articles before. I'm seeing them all for the first time. When you guys tweet me, tweet them at me. You tweet them at me. He wears iPhone headphones when he's interviewed. I do. That is true. But I have to do that for Echo on their end. Did I make my own Wikipedia, Joe? I did not. Somebody made it for me, which was cool. But guys, yeah, I will be back at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. Again, this has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. You guys tweet me articles, and then we go through them, and that's how we build the show. Thank you guys so much. I cannot do this show without you, obviously. It wouldn't be called Get Your News On with Ron. It would be called Ron's Here and Wants to Know What's Going On in the World and No One Else Gives a Shit. And that's way too long of a title for a show. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this and making it possible. Get your news on with Ron. I want to know what's going on. Get my news on today. Get your news on with Ron. I want to know what's going on. Let's hope they don't start World War III. Tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. I want to know what's going on. Get my news on today. This is Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. That means you guys send me the articles live, and that's how we do the show, live. Kate, love the interview with the Florida candidate. Thank you so much, Kate. We're going to be doing more of that. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone. That's where you can tweet the articles, or go to our Reddit subsection, which is just reddit.r/GetYourNewsOnWithRon. RonPlacone.com. Find out when I'm coming to a city near you. I'm coming to Galena, Illinois. I'm coming to San Antonio, Texas. Going to be coming to Austin, Texas. Going to be coming to Portland, Oregon. And patreon.com/RonPlacone if you are so able. I will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. See you then. Be safe in this crazy world of ours. Thank you so much. Peace.